morning. Welcome to Rouser Radio. Tuesday, the 22nd of January. Goodness gracious me. Doesn't the year escape? We're 22 days into the new year. You know, the funny thing is that you start to remember some special occasions, such as the turn of the century, which was 18 years ago, 19 years ago now. My goodness me, that time has really slipped by, and I suppose the older you get, the faster the time passes. Certainly it seems to be with me. It's a blink of an eye. Enjoy life. That's the important thing, and shrug off any of those nasty illnesses that you may have. You can't ignore all of them, of course, but I try very hard to ignore mine and get on with living. And that makes the passing years very enjoyable in terms of memory. And really, the present escapes within seconds. It's all memory, isn't it? And memories are wonderful. Anyway, I'm rabbiting on a little bit. We'll talk some more about how well our local district councils are looking after us, where the extra money is going to come from if we get sued, and what's happening, generally speaking, around the region. But, one of the things that we've got to worry about is the weather. It was very cold yesterday after a gorgeous, gorgeous moon. I woke up in the middle of the night and just couldn't believe how the earth, Lewis particularly, was bathed in a wonderful moonlight. Absolutely superb. And that was weather at its finest, I think, and we had a wonderfully brisk day yesterday. It was good to stride around with the nose cold, the fingers tingling, but with a decent coat on, you could enjoy it. But beware, because we're told by the weatherman that there is thunder snow coming. Whatever thunder snow is, I don't know that I've ever come across thunder snow before, but I assume that it means that if we get snow, it's going to be accompanied by a storm. So something to be very careful about, because we're really not used to that in this part of the world. Anyway, let's listen to a local group, because they were appearing in Lewis. They've been doing a lot of recording recently, so they've not been seen on the stage or in the clubs. They're coming back. It's John and Claire in Dandelion Charm and Birdcage.
And he said, sing,
Dandelion Charm come out of New Haven. John and Claire, wonderful duo, very nice people, come from a terrific family. Eccentric as old hell, but a terrific family. And who wants to know ordinary people? I remember a university professor saying to me, don't choose friends that fit on like an old shoe. That's absolutely right. Who needs old shoes? Friends that are like old shoes. Right, okay. This is Rouser Radio coming out of Lewes in East Sussex. A lovely part of the world, very rural, no major cities at all. I mean, Brighton is the first one to be hit here, which is really separates East and West Sussex. Really quite charming little towns for those of you who have never been to East Sussex. But like everywhere in the world, we've got our problems. One of the problems really is the level and efficiency of local government. Whether you're talking about the political level or the executive level, it has to be looked at very carefully. And that's not me talking, that's a dear old Boris Johnson. Okay, flamboyant, floppy hair, and actually knowing just a little bit about his background is sometimes a loose cannon. But I think that the political system at the moment has opened up a chasm where loose cannons can dive in. And that's why we've got Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau. And for that matter, prime ministers now in Spain and Italy and Greece and others coming in Germany and France, and then in the northern parts of Europe, we've got loose cannons all around the world. The point really being that we are displaying disaffection with the establishment. The old establishment has got it terribly wrong, and they don't seem to realise that we, as the taxpayer, as the voter, as the citizen that they're supposed to be looking after, have got fed up with it. We want change, and nobody seems to want to change. Nobody. The EU is mired in the way that it's always been, and let's face it, that's corruption and patronage. No sense in pretending otherwise. The British government and the British system. Now, the British system, I think, is okay. The British system is okay. The thing is that we've got people who don't know how to handle it. And that is also not only the political level, but the executive level as well. And until they actually realise that we want efficiency, we want things that are done for us and not for a tiny little bubble in Westminster, so much the better. But the trouble is that, as Boris has pointed out, this has spread to local government, and indeed it has. And it's become so pompous. I can't help but giggle every time I hear that somebody is a member of cabinet. Okay, if you look up the word cabinet in the dictionary, you can find that it really is a cabal, if you like, of leaders of any group. But it sounds to me so pompous. One time it was just a committee. Let's go into committee. That was a time-honoured phrase. Into committee. There's a group of people, and I suppose the word is okay, but it just sounds to me pompous. And this silly nonsense about a chair. What's wrong with chairman and chairwoman? I don't see that it really reflects on any isms at all. It's just a fact. But I'll be damned if I can understand how people can say they're going to talk to a chair. That's an inanimate object. The trouble is that the chair doesn't seem to be talking back. It doesn't seem to be telling our politicians, hey, listen, the people out there are fed up with you. And get on with change. Get on with looking at it instead of gazing at your own navel and seeing all this as a gravy train. Ah, dear. Incidentally, I haven't followed this up, but I was talking to somebody who is pretty astute about local government. And he pointed out, he said, we've got 3 levels in Lewes. We've got a town council, we've got the district council and we've got the county council, and the district council are crying the blues about money, and that's why they're in such diffs. And being taken to court for an £11.5 million suit. And the county council is talking about cutting down on bus passes, on talking about library fees, talking about services having to go to the wall because they haven't got enough money. He said, quietly, that funny little organisation in the Red Brick X Hotel, they've been squirreling their money away, and they're quite wealthy. The town council is doing all right. My only comment on that is that's because they really know where not to spend money and pretend that it's somebody else's fault, like the high street at Christmas. one Christmas tree and a few light bulbs. Boy, that didn't exactly dent the budget, did it? So good for those people at the town council if they're squirreling away. But of course their powers are very limited. Now the town council doesn't have a great deal of power. It's vested mostly in the district council, and then up to the council that looks after the entire region. And I was lucky because for a number of years I lived next door to, and my neighbour was the county treasurer. And actually, he buggered off in complete and utter disillusionment and lived in Warwickshire. He was a Welshman, a delightful man, a thinker. But he had enough, and that was it, and I don't blame him. But, the fact is that we really don't have good governance at any level at the moment. And it's time that the politicians and the mathematicians, if you like, the people who run the thing, realise that we just had enough and we want change. But what do we get? No, we get things done in secret, and then they go wrong. And the deeper the mess, the more the council becomes covert. And it's a bit distressing. It really is a bit distressing that we're not told what's going on. Now, I'd like to return in a moment to the question of parking in this town, because we are going to face, I think, another problem pretty soon, or at least the exacerbation of a problem. But first of all, why don't we listen to our friends from Bensound. Bensound are terrific people. They are very creative. They've got some great music, which they write themselves. They put it up on the website, and they say, listen, if you're not making a profit, if you're struggling, if you're getting going, you can use our music for free. Once you actually start to turn a bob or two, then we'd like you to pay for it. But in the meantime, please use our music for free. And so it is very good. And I'd like to give you an example of that, because here is Bensound with Buddy. Oh, there you are. Some of these things do come to a bit of an abrupt halt and catch me really looking at one or two other things to make sure I'm keeping you up to date with everything. One of the things that is a problem, and the groups on Facebook, things like Lewis Present and the equivalent groups for the various, what I call the tiny towns of East Sussex, scattered from Battle through to the borders with Brighton, they actually alert you to various things that are happening locally. And I think that we've got a wonderful system starting to grow for local media. I'm going to return to that in a little while, because one of the things that I saw the other day, or yesterday I suppose, is somebody who'd got faulty lighting in the streets. Now, Lewes is a strange town. It's a fairly safe town. The chief constable declares it as a relatively low crime area. And of course, he moves the coppers out to other parts of the county. And at the moment that the bad guys know that the coppers have moved, it's because they pour in. And Lewes is less safe than it was a couple of years or so ago. But there we go. That's another issue that we've got to investigate. But the county council were responding to one of the citizens about the lighting issue, and it's so typical. All of them are the same. Is they don't really know what's gone wrong, so they make an excuse. And then when nothing is done and the same person complains, they make another excuse until in the end they have to admit that they're going to have to dig up the bloody road because they don't know what's wrong. Why they don't say that in the first place and get on with it and be honest, I have no idea. I mean, it's just so silly, because Lewes District Council, for instance, have coined their slogan is customer first. Well, they must be in a sack race or an egg and spoon race or something, because the last thing that is first in their attention is the customer. But anyway, if they want to say that and it makes them feel better, I suppose that's okay, except they don't live to it. And of course that makes them look farcical. They have no concept of what PR is about, or even how to deal with what, the trains will now call you a client instead of a passenger. I mean, the world has gone mad. I don't know where these people come from who are stalking the various councils. They just don't seem to know what the real life is, the real world is about. But the reason that I mentioned the lighting was that I live on a Twitton. It's not one of the pretty Twittons where there is a lot of flint wall. And we do have some lovely, lovely Saxon Twittons left in Lewes. It's not unpleasant. It's not an unpleasant Twitton, but it's become a road. And quite often, traffic use it to get to Southaver from the high street. The taxis roar down. And sometimes the drivers are like Toad of Toad Hall. I mean, they grip the wheel, they actually glare at you as if trying to walk up the same road that they're using is, how dare you think that you can possibly walk on this road? Well, there ain't any footpath, mate, so we have to, and you have to share it with us. Somebody is going to be killed. Now, let me first of all say, I have always used G&M taxis. When I go in there, I always raise a chuckle because I call them George and Mildred after the comedy show of a few years ago on telly. George and Mildred taxis are pretty damn good. And if you really want to feel safe, and you want a safe driver, and for that matter, a courteous company, and it is run by a lady, I may say, and I didn't say a woman, by a lady. She's delightful if you talk to her, and always tries to look after you. So George and Mildred taxis, and believe me, this isn't a commercial for them. Well, it is, but they're not paying anything for it. It's just because I find them an outstanding company, and they really look after it. But anyway, most taxi drivers hurtle down my road, and somebody is going to be killed one day. I mean, either a resident, and there aren't too many of us on this particular street, who steps out and gets hit by a taxi, because most of our doorways lead directly onto the road, and or somebody who is coming up, and particularly on a dark night, is going to get hit. Now, 10 years ago, there was a sign that said 20 miles an hour, restricted to 20 miles an hour, and that sign disappeared. Now, I don't know whether they changed the rules and that it's not a district, it's not a restricted area anymore, or whether the sign just got lost with one of the many works that come in and has never been put back. And I may say that same treasurer, county treasurer, that lived next to me a number of years ago, he tried to get the thing back, and it still isn't there. There's still no restriction. So everybody comes hurtling down. But the fact of the matter is, of course, is somebody gets hit, and there's going to be a massive lawsuit. Oh, I just hope it's not me. I prefer to keep my body and soul together and not get a lot of money, thank you very much. But it's the sort of thing that the council just don't seem to care about. They don't care about people. They don't care about the people that they're supposed to serve. They've lost track, I mean, why not they go and sell butter? They might as well, because they don't really know what they're there to do. And that's the disturbing thing. That's the thing that I think that they've got to put right. And instead of doing silly things like getting into cabinet, and the other day the county council decided that they were going to have their meetings videoed, or at least their committee meetings videoed, but because it affected impartiality. Is black white? Is round square? It's funny how people argue themselves into these positions, isn't it? Anyway, we've got a real problem. There's no question. Well, never mind. Let's. I played this yesterday and I rather liked it. So let's have a bit of music and we'll. This was called Down with Paradise. It seemed to me that it was Up with Paradise. That doesn't get you out of bed and moving. Nothing will. Down with Paradise. Very upbeat indeed. Now, as usual, we're running out of time. So let me tell you the things that I want to talk about for the rest of this week. One is parking, because the present parking system doesn't help the traders in the town. It doesn't help visitors. And somebody was trying hard to get one of the visitor parking permits, and as usual, they managed to get a system which simply doesn't work. He's supposed to get them from the library now instead of the shop that we had on the high street, which is very convenient. So that's gone up the chutes as well. So the parking issue becomes to the fore again, but also because if we owe money, where do they get the money? They get it from parking, so the fees are likely to go up again. Whoop-de-doo, aren't we just very happy about that? The question of the local council being sued, yep, we got to take a look at that as well, and in depth. The people at Lewis Eye, if you can get the app, if you can get that site, it's very good. They do a very, very good investigative journalism job. And I'd also like to talk some more about what's happening in terms of local media, because I think there's a revolution taking place. And actually, I'm sure that it's happening in other parts of the country, but it's certainly happening here. And as the Harvard University Review said, the less local media you have, the less efficient the council and the higher the taxes. And isn't that the truth? So those are some of the things that we need to talk about later in the week. It's just Tuesday now, so we've got 3 more days to investigate these things. Have a lovely day. Yesterday, Monday, was the worst day of the year, according to the pundits. So if you've got over that, if you survived that, you can have a lovely day today and for the rest of the week. Right you are. This is Rouser Radio. Rouser, 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 bang, bang, bang. I'm Keith Hayes. Thank you for being with me this morning, and I hope that we'll be with you for the rest of the week and that we can talk about some important things, because life and our environment is important. We are entitled to think that we might be able to relax and enjoy everything instead of being hounded the way we do. Oh, that's the other thing is, before I go, and I have slightly over my time, watch out for apps. Apps from banks, apps from credit card companies. They are inaccurate. Their computers don't stay up. They tell you you've got one amount, and when you go and spend it, they suddenly tell you haven't got it after all. These apps are dangerous. Check, double check, triple check. Don't take what they're saying for granted. And if people say, oh, the computer can't get it wrong, don't believe it. The computer is only as good as the people are operating. Keith Hayes, Rouser Radio, out of East Sussex, Lewis. Here we go with boundless, endless music from Bensound.